All right, Chapter 9, The Age of Miracles concluded. Other miracles and miracle workers. Alexander Abonoticus, Apuleius, Antonius, Jewish superstitions, miracles of the Father, the Thundering Legion, change of water into oil, etc. The miracles of the New Testament. Alexander Abonoticus, the satirist Lucian, at the request of Cellus, wrote an account of this celebrated impostor. The following is a condensed statement of it as reproduced by the historian Froude. Alexander was born at Abonoticus, a small town on the south shore of the Black Sea, early in the 2nd century. The boy was of unusual beauty. He was taken up by a doctor who had been a disciple of Apollonius. Alexander's master was a magician, and he himself became an apt pupil. At the age of 20, when his master died, he set up for himself. He started for Byzantium, the great mart of ancient commerce. Here he became acquainted with one Coconus, by whom he was introduced to a wealthy Macedonian lady. She fell in love with him and took him and his friend with her to her country seat at Pella. Here the two friends laid plans for the future. They purchased a large tame snake, took it with them when they left Pella, and by the aid of the serpent made a business of fortune telling. They repaired to Abonoticus from Chalcedon. They brought some brass plates which had been discovered buried, in which bore an inscription that Apollo and Asclepius were about to appear at Pontus. The people of Abonoticus commenced building a temple for Alexander, who now soon acquired great reputation and renown. Lucian describes him as he then appeared: tall, majestic, extremely handsome, hair long and flowing, complexion fair, a moderate beard, partially his own and partly false, but the imitation excellent, eyes large and lustrous, a voice sweet and limpid. As to his character, says he, God grant that I may never meet with such another. His cunning was wonderful, his dexterity matchless, his eagerness for knowledge, his capacity for learning and power of memory were equally extraordinary. He made for the serpent a human face of linen, which was painted in an ingenious manner, and so arranged that the mouth would open and shut, and this was the face of Asclepius. From it he delivered oracles and spoke in unknown tongues. The temple was finished, the god was formally established in it, and the oracles became a permanent institution. People flocked from all parts of Asia Minor to consult them. Immense treasures flowed into the coffers of Alexander. The air was filled of miracles. The sick were healed, the dead were raised to life. The Christians considered him a missionary of the devil. Among his dupes was Rutulian, a senator in high favor with the emperor. There was a girl said to be the daughter of Selene, the moon, and Alexander. She is declared to be destined for Rutulian, and the marriage is celebrated with great pomp and splendor. Lucian himself visited Alexander and endeavored to expose him. He frankly admits that the attempt was a complete failure. When the prophet gave him his hand to kiss, Lucian bit it to the bone. For this he came near paying the forfeit of his life. Alexander, concealing his pain and mortification, treated Lucian with the utmost courtesy and kindness, and gave him a vessel for his return home. The commander was secretly instructed to throw him overboard. This he was too humane to do, but told Lucian he should be obliged to put him ashore, which he did, and Lucian found himself in Bithynia, a long way from home. He returned a wiser man at the prophet, and the prophet continued to flourish. The emperor bestowed distinctions upon him. He lived to be an old man and died in the acme of his fame. Apellatius. Some of the early writers speak of Apellatius as a worker of miracles. He was a pagan philosopher of the Platonic school, born at Madura in Africa. He lived about AD 150. He was distinguished for his eloquence and stood high as a Latin writer. Having married a rich widow in Tripoli, he was prosecuted by his relations on a charge that he had, in his courtship, made use of magical arts. He defended himself on that occasion by an apology, which is still extant. There has also come down to us another of his works entitled Metamorphosis, or The Golden Ass, supposed to have been a satire on the wealthy debauches of his time. Lactantius, referring to what Hero, Heracles had asserted, that Apollonius was greater than Christ because he rescued himself from domination while Christ was put to death, says it is somewhat strange that writers should pass over Apuleius, of whom many wonderful things are commonly said. Antinius was a beautiful youth, a favorite of the Emperor Hadrian. He was born in Bithynia. He accompanied Hadrian to Egypt and was drowned in the Nile AD 132. A city called Antiniopolis was built by the emperor near the spot where he perished, and countless statues were erected in his honor. Some of them still exist and are remarkable for their beauty. Justin Martyr says he was worshipped as a god. Origen says there were miracles wrought in many places, and Cellus mentions as miracle workers Asclepius Aristeus of Proconnesus and Cleomedes of Astapaleia. Jewish superstitions. The Jews were ever exceedingly superstitious. The miracles of the Old Testament are familiar to the reader. These were supplemented by an innumerable multitude of angels and demons of every description. The casting out of demons was familiar to the Jews long before the coming of Christ. In the book of Tobit, the angel Raphael directs fumigation with the heart and liver of a fish in order to drive a demon out of a man or woman so that it will never return. The demon Asmodeus was in love with Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, and had strangled 7 men who were going to marry her. But by the process mentioned above, he was driven out and flew into Egypt, where he was bound by the angel. In the book of Enoch, the names of 21 angels are given who had fallen through love for the daughters of men. The offspring of these were giants whose height was 3,000 ells. From these come the evil demons of earth. Raphael, I think it's Raphael. Well, it looks like Raphael was the angel who presided over the spirits of men. Uriel was the angel of thunder, earthquakes, etc. There were spirits controlling the winds and the lightning, others over the seas, and still others over hail, snow, frost, etc., etc. The Jews believed the stars were animated beings. Enoch saw 7 stars bound together, and he inquired of the angel on account of what sin they were bound. Uriel replied, they were the stars which had transgressed the commands of the highest God, and they were thus bound till 10,000 worlds, the number of days of their transgression, should be accomplished. The Targums are full of similar views concerning the stars and other heavenly bodies. The multitude of angels was innumerable. Each angel had a particular duty to perform. Michael was angel over water, Jehuel over fire, Jakiel over wild beasts, and Anpel over birds. Hariel was appointed over cattle, Mesanahel over reptiles, Dalel over fish, Samel over created things moving in waters and over the face of the earth. Rukiel was set over the winds, Gabriel over thunder and fire, and over the ripening of fruit. Nuriel over hail, Mactarel over rocks, Alpael over fruit-bearing trees, Sorel over those which do not bear fruit, and Sandalphon over the human race. Under each of these were subordinate angels. The demons were equally as numerous. They were in the air, on earth, in the bodies of men and animals, and even at the bottom of the sea. They were the offspring of the fallen angels who loved the daughters of men. Their number is infinite. The earth is so full of them that if a man had power to see, he could not exist on account of them. There are more demons than men, and they are about as close as the earth thrown up out of a newly made grave. It was stated that each man had 10,000 demons at his right hand and 1,000 on his left. He who wishes to discover these spirits must take sifted ashes and strew them about his bed, and in the morning he will perceive their footprints upon them, like a cock's tread. If anyone wishes to see them, he must take the afterbirth of a black cat which has been littered by a firstborn black cat, whose mother was also a first birth, burn and reduce it to powder, and put some of it in his eyes, and he will see them. The casting out of demons was an important feature in the Jewish theological system. Dr. Lightfoot says there was hardly any people in the whole world that more used or were more fond of amulets, charms, mutterings, exorcisms, and all kinds of enchantments. Josephus states that among other gifts, God gave to Solomon knowledge of the way to expel demons. Josephus himself had seen a countryman of his own named Eleazar release people possessed of devils in the presence of the Emperor Vespasian and his sons and his army. He put a ring containing one of the roots prescribed by Solomon to the nose of the demoniac and drew the demon out by his nostrils, and in the name of Solomon, in reciting one of his incantations, he adjured him to return no more. Yeah, let's stop it right there.